This one's one of the bigger mysteries for me, and it's one of those that, depending on how the season goes, we may have a very different opinion of this coaching staff.
Sure.
Once we get out of it, because Oklahoma enters the SEC in a year where they're coming off a double-digit win season, but they had to completely rebuild their offensive line. Texas is coming in a year where they are feeling great about their roster, look like Absolutely. They can compete with anybody in the league. Oklahoma is a big mystery right now. Defensively, probably as deep as they've been in years.
Absolutely.
They love their quarterback in Jackson Arnold. They let Dylan Gabriel walk. I understand why. But that offensive line loses Tyler Guyton, a first-round pick at tackle, loses Walter Rouse, who came from Stanford, did a good job for them. And they've just had to kind of piece it together. Are they going to be able to hold up?
Yeah. They also lose a guy named Caden Green to Mizzou, who also transfers away from that offensive line. And you know what? The worst possible thing you can do for a young quarterback who has only has he started a game?
Andy, one. He started the bowl game. He had a lot of turnovers.
Actually,
that's not true. He also started the BYU game.
Sure, but that's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. You're fielding borderline a completely new offensive line unit. Now, granted, they have a great skill room. They really do. I think they added some firepower in Deion Burks. You got guys like Nick Anderson, who's going to be a great player for them. They added some reliable tight end options, and Jake Roberts from Baylor. The Bauer Sharp kid from Southeastern is a great athlete. The running back room's still very strong, right? Gavin Sawchuk, you get Javonte Barnes back. They have Caleb Hicks, a very dynamic group back there, but none of that helps if the offensive line can't protect or move defenders off the ball. And I get extremely worried. I've seen this song and dance before where you have a highly touted quarterback, all the hype in the world. They've shown some good things in the preseason. They've shown some good things in a prior season, but when you're the guy that has to go out there, play one, and you're going on the road in the SEC in some of the most hostile environments in the world, if you get beat up early, there's a world in which Jackson Arnold could be seeing ghosts, and that rarely goes away. So I think the way this team operates out the gate is extremely vital to this team's success down the line.
That Tennessee game, that game at Auburn, those are critical. I think Absolutely. You got to split those. You got to split those going in, and then you're probably 4-1 going into Texas.
Sure.
You beat Texas last year. Like I'm not handing Texas a win against Oklahoma. So my floor is actually still only 6-6. Like I don't think there's a world they don't make.
I'm that way too. That way too.
But my ceiling is CFP berth, and I believe anything in between. Because I don't know.
Sure.
But my question is, and this is where it gets interesting. If they're 6-6, if they're 7-5, what do you do about Brent Venables? How do you feel about Brent Venables if you are Joe Castiglione, their athletic director? Because you are Oklahoma. Like, that ain't good enough. And you would have had 2 seasons out of 3 of ain't good enough.
Right. And I think if you're Brent Venables, the way you're pitching this is to say, hey, look, we got some unfortunate luck on the offensive line. Tyler Guyton leaves. We lost Caden Green, and we're starting a young quarterback. We didn't have help for him. I can go get that, but you have to commit to spending money in the portal and landing guys in the trenches, which we all know costs a lot.
They did just do with Dominic Williams.
Sure, correct. And that's on the defensive side, right? My point being, if you aren't willing to protect your quarterback of the future, then what are we doing? And I think that's the message that Brent Venables has to send, to say, hey, if I can protect this guy, the 5-star talent will show up on the field. And I think he's going to be able to buy himself at least one more year. And if he doesn't fulfill that promise, he's donezo.
Well, and that's the thing. As long as even if they're 7-5, as long as they're playing people tough,
exactly,
he's fine. He's
Agreed.
Fine. You can't get bullied. You can't get blown out.
Yep.
And they have that blowout loss to Texas a couple years ago. I don't see that happening again. I think they've built their roster to the point that that's not going to happen. So
Agreed.
that's the part. If he can just get through this, I think the future is actually pretty bright. But this is not how you want to come into the league. You do not want to come into the league having to rebuild your offensive line. So
Absolutely.
a lot of variability for Oklahoma this year. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.